January of 2025, after Trump got into office, I lost three guys the first week. The way that my business worked is we went to houses to do work orders, so they had to come and go a lot to Home Depot. So at one of those runs for materials, they were kind of stopped outside, and that kind of really opened up probably like a bigger monster than I expected. I didn't really know what to do, what to say, I didn't know. And I was literally telling everybody, and their response was just like, "You're so crazy, nothing's going on." I mean, I was interviewed by the Chronicle, and they were just like, "There's just no reports." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm telling you, this is what's happened. This just happened to my people." Literally the next week, a few more guys.
3, 2, 1.
A ver, bienvenido, welcome to Conchas with, God damn it, I get fucked up every time. Welcome to Conchas con Chicanos. I'm Sergio Javier Valverde.
I'm Eduardo Rios.
We're Chicano artists over in Houston, Texas. I'm a filmmaker.
I'm a photographer and I play in a band called Los Calaveras.
Yeah, and now we're back at La Imperial Bakery. Wonderful food, wonderful people.
This place was too good not to come back.
Really excited for us. Well, technically not our second guest, but like our I don't know.
We're very honored to have the guest over here. She can introduce herself.
Hey guys, I'm Stephy. I'm mostly known through all the work I do with Immigrating Youth Texas, which is IYT. We are a grassroots organization here in Houston, and I've gotten to work with Sergio and Eddie, and I love them very much, and I love all the work they do with the community. So we're super excited for all of the adventures we have together coming up.
I'll go first. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what you do here in Houston.
Was born in Dallas, but I literally, like, at 3 days old, we went back to Mexico. My parents were from Mexico. I grew up in a small town, kind of like 6 hours from the border. It's called Tampico. It's a beach town. It's mostly known for sharing a border or a port with Veracruz. I grew up there. Mexico was awesome. And then shortly after, kind of Fox won over the presidency there, like a narco war erupted. And my stepdad worked for the police department, La PGR. So, and he worked in the narcotics department. So it was pretty imperative for us to leave. And quite literally, my parents came to my room with a suitcase and said, "Whatever fits is what we're taking. We're leaving tomorrow night." And that's literally what happened. We left. We came to the United States when I was 11, but we went literally straight to Virginia. So it was such a culture shock for me to, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know that there was an African-American race. Like, that's how sheltered, in a way, Mexico is. So when I came here, everything was culture shock. I guess the blending of cultures, at that time, you're talking 20, 25 years ago, we were kind of treated. So, we're still treated pretty badly, but back then it was worse. You spoke Spanish at the store, people stared at you so negatively. I was bullied a lot growing up. So I feel like from those experiences, it kind of like made me grow into this outspoken, kind of don't take crap from anyone type of attitude that has, in a way, helped a lot with the movement now. But yeah, so fast forward to, I don't know, maybe 15, we moved to Houston. And the rest is history. I went to school here. I got that super well. And then I was actually going to school for dentistry when I accidentally landed on a construction contract. And that quite literally changed my life overnight. I went from, and I will tell you guys this, I completely lied to get this job. I had no idea what a business owner was. I had no idea what general liability was. I had no idea how to even run a business at 19. I was like, you know what? I can do it. And I did, I was really lucky. I did it. And that kind of like built a 15-year career that was very rewarding. And that's actually what led me into the movement. January of 2025, after Trump got into office, I lost three guys the first week. The way that my business worked is we went to houses to do work orders, so they had to come and go a lot to Home Depot. So at one of those runs for materials, they were kind of stopped outside. And that kind of really opened up probably like a bigger monster than I expected. I didn't really know what to do, what to say, I didn't know. And I was literally telling everybody, and their response was just like, "You're so crazy. Nothing's going on." I mean, I was interviewed by the Chronicle, and they were just like, "There's just no reports." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm telling you, this is what's happened. This just happened to my people." Literally the next week, a few more guys, and then it got to the point that I lost 11 guys in a month, and you know, I became very vocal about it. I didn't have a big platform, but I knew that I had to somehow tell people what was happening to me. And some random person reached out to me on TikTok and was like, "Hey, I really want you to come speak at this protest." And that also changed my life into what today is. I spoke at that protest. The majority of my speech was really focused on a lot of the bigger construction companies here in Texas who are exploiting their employees. I didn't drop any names, but these people know I work for them. I worked for them for over a decade. So the protest was on a Sunday. That Monday, I got a call from 4 of my biggest contracts, and they basically fired me. And at that point, I just kind of said, "Screw it. I'm going to go all in on IYT." I quite literally liquidated all of my assets, everything I had. Same with Gigi. We really sat down and realized what it was going to take for us to really do this if we were going to do it the right way, because we very quickly learned that there's a lot of organizations in Houston, but either they're not doing the work that they need to with the community, or our community is just dispensing so much money to them, nothing's being done. The government's giving them a lot of money, and here's the thing: it would be all great, but we have to get back to the community who is blindly supporting these organizations. So we took a really long time to really build a good foundation for IYT before we decided, like, okay, we're doing this. And in that was building a shelter here in Houston that would cater as kind of like a middle ground for kids to avoid detention, that we are hoping becomes the blueprint nationwide, because it doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes people who care and people who are dedicated. And I know that our community holds it. So I know there's more communities nationwide that just want to keep our kids safe, give them a good chance of, life. I have kids, so it's a really important thing for me that, when it came to our laps, it was, you just couldn't say no, and it takes a lot of dedication, right? We work for free. We do not get paid for anything that we do. And we self-fund IYT, and that's been very difficult. But I think that that's also, in a way, powerful in its own, because that we are so committed that we're literally doing it because we care. And like, there's no other way to put it. And I feel like that has been a lot of our success in a way. It's because we're not doing it for the clicks and likes. We literally just want to set Houston up to have something safe, because we have great artists here. We see a lot of talent come out of Houston, and our kids need that good foundation. Houston has a lot of really rich people, but a lot of really poor people, and nobody talks about the poor people. Nobody talks about how hard the struggle is. I think we focus on all this flashy stuff that Houston holds, but we have communities that need a little bit of our care. And, it really doesn't take much to transform some of these things around, and that's what we're hoping to bring more and more to Houston as we continue to grow. And, we're a year in, but I feel like, we're just running, running as much as we can to do as much as we can all the time.
Oftentimes, where how I feel like everything is framed is very much there's a lot of words, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of anger, a lot of protesting, a lot of marches, a lot of these things that are really, really important. But after that, what are the actions that are being followed? after that energy?
So depending on, I can't speak for anybody else, but for us, we do very specific targeted protests. For example, if we are doing something in regards to like a reform, the next action would be to process that reform into the system, right? In the Liam case, the last protest that we did, our big call to action was bringing awareness to not just the Dilley Detention Center, who is housing a lot of the children here in Texas, but there are two others. So we were actually very fortunate. That's how I met Eddie, that in that time frame that we were bringing more awareness, seeing how we can get involved, he reached out, and the last march was born, where we are now, through music, art, and movement, are bringing more awareness to Dilley, Brownsville, El Paso. It's really important that we don't forget that there's still two other places housing kids here in Texas,
And just for context for viewers, we're talking about Liam Conejo Ramos.
Yes. So his case was very significant because not only was what happened atrocious, but it finally brought awareness to the public about how detrimental some of the things that are happening in these centers are, which is something we hadn't seen before. We were very hyper focused on the arrest and the violence, but everybody was forgetting about what was happening behind closed doors. So this particular case, and what's interesting is there's been many kids before Liam that were arrested or detained, however you want to see it. But I think that even kidnapped 100%, without their parents as well. So, and then they're not located either. So that's also a different lane you can get into. But I think what was so significant about him is we've become a society that is very hyper focused on socials and stuff. So the image of that child was so gut wrenching. But here's the thing: if somebody went into these centers and took pictures, I think people would be so mortified of the reality of these places. And, this is something that we've tried bringing awareness to before, and it just wasn't sticking as good as it did now, because I think now we're realizing not just the Liam case, but now we have the Epstein files, and now we're having all of these things building all of this pressure around kids. And you've got two options: either you stay silent and complacent, or you do something and you have to do something about it. So you do something about it. And to be honest with you, a lot of our protests and stuff do a lot of call to action. So we're really big on bringing speakers or organizations that do have platforms. So IYT doesn't have something where, for example, we go and feed out the homeless once a week, right? But Food Not Moms does. So we try to give you platforms of organizations that we've already vetted, that we love and work with, that need that help if you want to do those things, right? And then if you want to be part of IYT, come with us. There's a lot of things that you can do. We have a big initiative right now to get into the centers. So we're going to start sending letters to the centers. We have a vigil coming up Sunday. A big part of it is drawings. That's going to be sent to each step homes, and they're going to start delivering a lot of these alongside some of the funds that we're going to submit to the commissary through the event that we're doing. So I think for each organization is very different. I think there's a lot of organizations that have a great platform set up to get involved, and then they do a lot of other community action events as well. And then a lot of it is on the person. If you come to a movement, my job is for you to leave there ready for action. So I feel like we try to do that as much as we can with IYT by not just protesting, but giving you those resources for action, as much as we can.
Yeah, something I want to touch on a bit more is just the conditions in these facilities. I don't think people realize just how fucking depraved it is.
Dire it is.
And, I recently had a friend who had her dad self-deport, which is like in itself a bullshit kind of language, because no one self-deports, they're pushed to these conditions to be forced to sign these papers and never be allowed to come back, or have the process be even harder. But it's one of those things when I was hearing her talk about it where I'm like, fuck, even I wasn't that aware of this. And it's, not just the facilities that house the adults, it's the children. And now, how many more warehouses are being purchased and transformed?
About 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Just in Texas.
Yeah.
One of which is where I was born and grew up in, Baytown. And right now, I'm in the process of like putting people together to try to figure out, okay, where is it?
Yeah.
Who is it? Who's selling it?
Yeah.
How do we stop it if we can?
Or at least bring attention to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
Yeah.
Baytown is like, Baytown is like blue collar central for so many Latinos, so many immigrants,
Yeah.
and
so many people from Baytown go to Houston to work.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them keep the city running.
yeah,
Essentially, honestly.
Yeah.
and now with the recent ordinance from the city of
Está rico. Está rico. Yeah.
yeah, of like the bare minimum of like, hey, maybe don't call ICE at a traffic stop. Now fucking Greg Abbott is threatening to pull away public funds that keep those same cops running.
Mind you, now it's Austin, Dallas, and Houston who have funding pulled all at the same time
And Whitmire,
because of this.
Whitmire snapped too. Whitmire, he cowered.
Yeah,
Like I expected him to.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first, I was like sketchy about it.
I would
I was sketchy about it.
Yeah, I was very taken aback by the ordinance to begin with. But when I read it, I knew that we had already stripped so much from it that would make it legal. So it is a legal binding ordinance. We don't go against state law at all, because at the end of the day, stopping you at a traffic stop and keeping you longer without a criminalized intent is against your Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
So it's unconstitutional, and we are literally the only city nationwide doing this.
yeah,
So I think it's absolutely bizarre that we are even doing this. You know, we are defunding the same system that we need to collaborate with ICE to do these detentions, but that's okay. Like, I feel like as a mayor, I would have been like, well, fuck you. You want to take money away from my police officers, but you want to ask them to do these things. That makes no sense. And you know, not that we have a closing working relationship with HPD, but a lot of these officers are not on the same boat that you would think, where they want to stop people and do these, because these are their community members, you know. We have the luxury of sometimes talking to sergeants at, you know, the protests and stuff, and a lot of the conversations I personally have with a lot of them is like, they're on our side and they do this for a job. And then, you know, my reply to them is like, you know, guys, at some point you're going to have to decide where your morals lie financially, right? What are you worth? You can't buy me for a revolution, but you need to figure out at what point you're going to say, this is past my morals and values. Yes, I'm doing this for a job, but I can't do this because this is going against our morals and values, right? So, and I feel like that's a big war that we're up against too, especially with these conditions and stuff, you know. I think for the first time, and I'll speak because I'm very spiritual, we are quite literally seeing a battle between evil and light. I think that what is happening, not just in the centers, which the conditions are awful. There is no clean water. There is no bedding. The kids are sleeping on the floors. They are literally in 10 by 10s. They have to work to be able to pay to buy clean water, which is priced at $4, but only earn about 10 to 20 cents for labor. So it's quite physically impossible. You have to work at least 2 days just to be able to purchase water to feed your newborn formula, because the water conditions are so bad that it gives the children diarrhea and other illnesses. The ACLU passed a really chilling report a few months ago that I spoke about at a protest, where we now have recorded incidents through the courthouse. Like, they are literally suing the ICE detention center in Arizona because children as young as 14 years old are getting their testicles burst as a form of torture. So we're literally castrating voice, right? And then you add a layer of the trauma that these kids are experiencing on a daily basis. And then, you know, mental health goes so far. I mean, I feel like that's the silent killer of our of humans, right? And that's a big focus on IYT shelter is, yes, we want to give them a safe home, but a big part of our shelter is honestly going to be rehabbing these kids because a lot of these kids, and that's another part, we don't know the extreme of the situations because we hear about it after, right? There's a child that was just raped for a 3 month period that is under the age of 5. So we're going to keep hearing over and over and over and over again of all of these traumatic situations. So I think that the only, and I'm going to be so direct, honest, and transparent. There's no way to stop the monster. The only way to do is make an action plan for either after or during. We need extreme civil disobedience for something to change. We are very conformed with life. That's not going to happen anytime soon. These warehouse fires are giving me slight hope. Shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it.
What was that one that like the gates opened and then like everyone was like, "Oh, hold on, let's not go inside."
I don't know.
There's literally like 13 different warehouses nationwide on fire, and it became a trend, right? The first guy lit one, and then everybody else was like, no, I mean, everybody's kind of jumping on that trend now, and it's effective. I mean, we're gonna have a small toilet paper shortage for like a week or two, but holy crap, I mean, that on its own became a movement. And we're seeing more and more, we've seen Amazon warehouses now, we saw Tesla's warehouse get burned. And I think society's getting tired, but we need more acts like that to really form a revolution. But here's where the double-edged sword is, right? You can't have a revolution without a little bit of good trouble, but we have to define what that good trouble is, right? When that good trouble affects civilians' lives or puts a lot of lives in danger, that's when we kind of have to take a step back and think of a logical way to do civil disobedience where it doesn't also harm the community. But there will be a point in time where violence will only be the answer. And I truly hope that we can.
It doesn't get to that.
It doesn't get to that. Yeah. But with the extremities of things happening, that could be your life in a year or two. A human's endurance is only so much. So there's going to get a point where people are going to be walking around with guns, protecting themselves from ICE. You're going to be like what the Black Panther's doing right now. I think you're going to see a lot of things like that. And that on its own causes pressure and tensions and stuff. We've seen the kids walking out in schools. They're fucking tired of it. Their parents are the ones that are being quite literally kidnapped. So we're seeing a lot of more of the younger demographic get involved, which is the first time ever we're seeing people younger than 18 give a shit about what's happening. It's hard for somebody who isn't mentally at a very intelligent stage to have that compassion and empathy for geopolitics. It's just, if you're 15, you're scrolling and hanging out with your friends, you're not caring about who's getting kidnapped, but these kids are caring. And that's another thing on its own where I think that as leaders, we have to focus on that and redirect. I have pushed a lot for a lot of our organizations to focus on this youth and give them a path of hope through politics if it's available, meaning we have a lot of chairs that need to be filled. We have a lot of movements that need to be fueled. And so I'm like, we need to really help these kids and guide these kids who don't have anything going on for themselves after high school and say, hey guys, guess what? You can get involved in this. This is what's happening in your city. If you care and want to make an impact, there are options for you outside of college. I think that's a harder task, but it's definitely doable with community always, yeah.
And so, to your point, right, kind of bringing it back a little bit, I think the Overton window has shifted quite a bit.
Yeah.
And people are waking up a lot more, even the Trump supporters.
Yes.
And it does piss me off because this is something we've been screaming and shouting. They're acting like it's some crazy revelation. But aside from that, people's morals are actually being put on a left versus right now. And people are actually being like, oh my God, what have I done? And to distract a lot from what is going on in the United States, I do believe that they are flooding the zone in a way with this whole Iran-Iraq war, or Iran war, yeah. And, actually last night, President Trump was like, Strait of Hormuz is open, and it's actually not open, and it's like this whole like crazy thing, but like unfortunately, all the news that was going towards ICE and all these other things in this country has shifted away. The Epstein files, the attention is all gone. For a while, we were able to hold it, but now we're stuck in this perpetual loop of, oh man, what's going to happen? What's going to do this? And it's the Israel, what blah blah blah. So how do you kind of manage trying to bring the focus back away from our foreign issues, which actually do 100% affect us?
Yeah.
Back to the domestic issues that also affect us.
So I do think that we haven't seen a lot of disinterest in what's happening. I mean, I think it just really depends on individuals' views. I mean, my kids are half Persian, but I have chosen to keep myself at a distance from that topic and that entire thing simply because my views are coming because my ex-husband went through the first revolution, so I have firsthand conversations and experiences. He lost family there right now, and it's not that I don't care. I just think everything that's happening there is so unnecessary in general, right?
Yes.
But here's a big question, because this is something that we have to prepare for when Israel turns on us.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen sooner than we expect. And then honestly, nothing of what's happening will matter.
Yeah.
I think that is something we have to not only prepare for, but through that, the way you can, I don't know how to word it. I think people care about what they care about, and it's really hard for you to force someone to care based on networks, if that makes sense. If somebody is very passionate about immigration, they're still going to look for those things, right? While you're still being flooded with all of this stuff, I think the people that are involved in this movement or the revolution are very self-aware that this is an Epstein war, that this is used as a cover-up, that we still have to keep active with mutual aid in all of these places that are being targeted. I think it's almost like a no-brainer type of thing, right? I refuse to look at the news, but I do, and Korean news is a great outlet because they're literally covering what's happening in the United States better than our own network.
Oh yeah.
Which is insane. They literally have boots on the ground in Minnesota covering people getting, gas and stuff, which is insane to me. But Korean news is where it's at. Maybe start looking at foreign news, right? That's a big thing that I always say. But to go back to your question, I don't really think there's a correct answer there because I think as a human, you literally only care about the stuff that you care about, and that circles your bubble. And if you're very passionate about things, you don't let those things kind of lead into your lane or your cause. You can be empathetic, you can understand it, you can help or support any way you can. But I truly feel like the people that are like involved I mean, y'all know that this is all like a facade and like a cover up, and we're doing everything in the power, like anything possible to not put like a focus on the files, on what's happening. We saw Melania Trump come out and do this like crazy speech that Trump didn't even know about. A lot of the stuff that she said was weird. And then, like 2 or 3 days later, there's this girl that's like, oh, I've known her for 20 years. That's all a lie, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what was the point of that, right? So I think that it's just a way to obviously deter, but that's why it's even more important to bring as much awareness as possible and try to, talk to your neighbors about things. I know it's uncomfortable sometimes. Talk to your friends. And if you know somebody's a Trump supporter, you're going to be very surprised I say this. Give them grace because we literally need them to wake up. I know it pisses us off, but we literally need all of those people to wake up to be able to continue to fuel this movement because it's kind of like divinity, right? It depends on what you believe in. A lot of people who believe in darkness or devil worshiping and stuff like that, when they talk about illumination or when they talk about divinity or believing in God, they talk about kind of like a transformation where they're awakened to repent their sins, right? And the reason I'm saying this is very similar to a like Republican waking up. They go through this layered thing because a lot of the people that are so deeply Republican grew up with this. They literally don't know any better. I think it's very challenging for anybody to question identity and to go against the grain. And that on its own is scary. So, some people don't have the luxury to be like you and I, where we can just be like, this is fucked up. This is not morally okay. I'm really big on morals and values. Not everybody is, So I think that by the time they're awoken, they've already gone through so many tributes and challenges that my answer is always welcome.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for you all along. How can you be of service? And then go about your day. It is not your battle. It is not your place to judge. You just have to kind of give them shit to do and move on about your day. I literally can't stand when people are like, "Oh, I was sounds great. I'm sorry you were a Trump supporter. That sucks. Welcome. You're here. Let's get you working and doing something." So you shift that narrative from, because at that point, even if they go back, they can't really be like, "Well, they were not inviting," and then it's like, man, against all odds, they still welcomed me. They still gave me community. They still gave me love. A lot of this monster has to be fought on love. Love is quite literally the only emotion in our entire body that can overpower any other emotion in a nonviolent way. So don't hate them too much. Give them some love and grace. They're also going through stuff just like us. And I'm not excusing their behavior at all because it isn't, but some people quite literally don't know. A lot of this thing is uneducation. They just don't know better.
It's one of those. It's funny. I'm a bring up a Star Wars quote from one of the controversial movies, The Last Jedi. Towards the end, one of the characters it says, "We're not gonna win by fighting what we hate. We're gonna win by saving what we love."
Yep.
And I think that's very fucking important when it comes to just any kind of movement, any kind of cause that values human life. It's sometimes people forget and get in their own bubbles on social media, TikTok, and all of these things where it's like, fuck you for not knowing better or thinking exactly how I think. And it's so like
it's layered.
It's this is gonna be a weird comparison, but like being a queer person, it's like I struggled so much in accepting myself and like changing myself to be able to accept my queerness. It's like, how am I gonna expect a conservative to like change their entire worldview to become
total identity shock? Yeah. And that's the monster in its own right, because I truly think that a lot of these supporters are against it, but how can you go against something you've been so loudly about? So it is that's the first battle, the battle of identity, before you can actually get to where we are.
Yeah. And not every person is gonna be built to be able to completely be accepting. Some people just don't want to deal with that, and that's fine. It's like, maybe you want to focus on Palestine or the war on Iran, or just simply immigration stuff. And it's like everyone has their own lanes, everyone has their own capacity.
And that's really important too, because you need people in different lanes doing different things to be able to create that ripple, and I feel like for us, that's what's really worked, because we don't delude ourselves. We are literally just focused on children. Anything that impacts kids, you're going to see us involved in. It's very rarely that you'll see an IYT logo in anything outside of either something very crazy immigration or anything specific to children, because we do need all of these lanes for people to be able to focus and actually do the work. We have a great Palestinian community here who has done amazing work, through the entire conflict with Israel, and they're a great movement to join here in Houston. There's so much that literally there's an organization for anything. So if you can't find one that aligns with you, go fucking create one.
Yeah,
That too.
Literally get a bunch of your friends together, go to the park, create an organization, make video, get supporters. That's what I did.
that's what I'm doing in Baytown.
That's what I did. And I'm literally a mom of 3 who had no previous experience, who had strangers become family, and now we're doing this together, because Gigi and I did not know each other a year ago. She was a complete stranger to me. We literally met through the process of the protest, and we both took a chance, and we honestly, because we've had these days where we're like, what if it doesn't work out? And my answer to that is always like, then you and I know that we tried every fucking thing possible to make it work. And we're crazy enough that it's not going to not work out. We're going to make it work one way. I know I'm going to make it work one way or another. And I know that we'll achieve that. But, through that, you find community. Strangers have to become your family. You have to be more open to expanding your world with the wonderful people that hold the movement as well. So, and kind of to your like Star Wars quote, I feel like when you come to like an IYT protest, we are so deeply rooting and making sure that when you leave, you feel loved, not just by us, but by like people around you, yourself, like, because a person whose cup is full of love is 10 times more likely to go home energized to be of action than somebody that leaves a protest full of rage.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that you see in an IYT protest is literally drilled down for the human psyche. I mean, from me telling you to hug each other during my speech to the breath, like the music, everything is literally like, I've fine-tuned everything that it reaches the psychological point of a human, because oftentimes when you come to a protest, you come so fucking angry. And when an angry mind can't work properly. You need a calm, peaceful mind to be able to do something effectively. So that's literally our only job, is to make sure that we can get you to that flow state so that you can just go do it, organize, do something. And love's very powerful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So powerful. But I'm talking about some other shit, some like narco shit that I shouldn't have talked about.
Oh no.
I know. In the comments, they were like, "Girl, you're not scared?" And I was like, "I'm scared. I don't give a fuck. Let them come for me."
That's crazy.
I did. I was like,
Yeah, that's going on the Patreon exclusive this
Yeah.
section.
no, but for real, I mean, I talk a lot about the stuff in Mexico that people are scared to talk about. Yes, because I live here, but also I think that a lot of the way that I say stuff, I'm not disrespecting anybody particularly. And when I speak about things, it's actually like factual, and more, I try to not do opinion based. I try to just do experience based. So I think that, you know what? And I'll be so honest with you guys. I don't know if this is being recorded or not, but if I'd rather die for my truth than to die as a fake
Mhm.
any day of the week. I literally rather die speaking the truth than being an imposter.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I see so much on like, especially TikTok. There's a lot of like tiptoeing around certain language and tiptoeing around
Unalive.
topics, and it's like, I don't really like the Hassan guy, but he has a point. And it's like, God damn it, stand up for something. Have a spine. Like, you don't need to add a caveat to every single thing you say.
I like her song.
Yeah,
I know so many people don't like it.
I don't know
Actually,
who
I
that
like the song.
I have no idea who that is.
he's a man. Don't worry about him.
Yeah. That's why I don't know who he is.
Yeah,
I don't care
like
about
him. Secular Talk, Wash. I listen to all those guys.
I have no idea who any of these guys are.
Yeah, that's good. The online space is a mess.
Yeah, I don't watch TV. I don't go on YouTube. I read so much on my day that when my time is limited, I want to spend it with my kids and my friends.
Thanks.
Yeah, but I don't. And then if I watch TV, it's always some like crime scene, like documentary. Just because I want to know like the signs before I get killed or something. You know.
Nice.
You should watch
That's
this new
valid.
documentary that just dropped on Hulu called Sky King. I took a huge interest in that because I'm in aviation.
Okay.
It's about the guy who hijacked a plane in 2018, but only because he wanted to cruise around and then he just
Died.
yeah, he died.
Dude,
Yeah. That was a really good documentary.
I met this incredible person recently who is into aviation,
Yeah.
and she was telling me a time when she was like with this instructor who like I don't know barely became one
Mhm.
and didn't really like was passionate about it. He was just like, oh yeah, I just got hired, you know.
Oh my god.
And while they're up there, I forget the details, but some kind of malfunction happened, and she had to fucking take over and get them to like land somewhere because they did end up like crashing and like
Oh no.
not incredibly like
Yeah, yeah,
severe
yeah,
because
they-
afterwards they were still able to use the plane, but like they fucking like crashed and she had to like take over and like take them back because the dude was having like a whole panic attack.
See,
That is so scary.
The biggest thing you can do in aviation is panic. You
Yeah,
gotta know what you're doing up there, man. You
it's
have to know what you're doing.
he got fired after that recently, but you know,
Oh yeah, no, for sure, man. You can. That's like actually really big. That's a big oops.
yeah, it's
It's a big,
crazy.
big oops.
But
That is so scary to me. Especially as somebody who's like big on like control and risk. That is so scary. Oh my god. I would have probably beat him up after I crashed. I would have been like, "What's wrong with you? You're supposed to know what's going on."
no, yeah, she was like comforting him, trying to calm him down. It's like
That's crazy, dude.
it's like
I would have crashed out 100%. 100%. I have like a nervous like I mean, I had an anxiety attack outside of the event. What was it, last week, 2 weeks ago? I just have like an anxious, you know.
I think that's I feel like that's natural. Everyone has some anxiety inside them because it's just the state of the world that we
To
exist
some
in.
extent or the other, I've met people that I'm like, so how much anxiety do you have? They're like, what's that? I'm like, bro.
No, there's some there's some speakers that go up there. I mean, a lot of people don't know this because and a lot of people are actually surprised when they find out, but I have a complete mental B before any public speaking. I have to quite literally like hype myself up to be able to speak, to deliver the messages I do. And 9 out of 10 times right after, unless it's an IYT protest and I'm like forced to stay in the area, you'll see me running out of the area because I have a panic attack right after.
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
That's me every time like my stuff gets shown anywhere, or I'm like watching someone watch my stuff. I'm just like I can't.
You know, the time when I felt the most alive forever, like, so when I had my first ever like concert and show, like I felt so nervous. Like I was having some really bad like actual physical anxiety at the time. I had to take like these pills, but I forgot to take them.
Oh.
And I was convinced for weeks that I was gonna die on stage. So I got up there and I was like, fuck, at least get through one song first, dude. And like when I get real nervous, my left hand goes numb and I'm like, oh dude. Anyways, I got through the show. And then after that, I played so many shows. Nothing. Feel zero, zilch, nada. Until I went to her protest. And I had to do a speech and I was like, oh fuck. I'm used to doing this to my crowd. I'm used to doing this here at the White Swan or wherever I go. But then I got up there and I was like, oh man, my left arm is starting to go
When you
numb
see
again.
those people and you see
Yeah.
the like amount of people,
Yeah.
I don't know if this happens to you, but it's just like I get like a little like yeah.
Oh yeah, and you know what's the worst part? I didn't even tell you this. So I think the speech right before yours or when you went up, I had been having to use the restroom bad, like real bad. And then I was like, oh dude, I can't hold it anymore, bro. I was gonna hold it till my show. Till after my show, but I was like, dude, I can't. And so I was like with Ty, I was like, dude, Ty, do you think I can make it? And she's like, oh, where's the bathrooms? And I'm like, I don't know. We saw the apartments over there, all the way, at the other side of the park. And we're like, bro, maybe I'll just go over there real quick. because I saw a little building. I was like, maybe that's a bathroom.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I went over there. I think the person before you just finished your speech and you went on. And I was like, I don't know how long she's gonna take, bro. I don't know how long she's gonna take. I'm right after her. So I went and I was like, I couldn't find anything. So I ran into like this little corner. It's right there, like listening to you.
Shame on you.
Yeah. And then Ty is like, I don't know, she's still talking. I was like, whatever. And so I ran all the way back and kind of slid through the
Because
crowd.
you were after me.
Yeah. And as soon as I got there, you're like, all right, do we have a new speaker? Eddie. So that's actually what happened right before my performance.
I was so nervous to deliver that speech because that was the first time that I have ever not delivered a call to action. This was more a call to reality, and it was welcomed by the community, but I did get some I wouldn't say backlash, but I did get some kind of like, we weren't prepared for those truths. And I was just like, well, yeah, that's my job.
Yeah.
Is to tell you the truth, not to make you comfortable, you know. Yeah, that was such a beautiful protest.
That was a great.
Yeah, no, and it's funny that you said that. My last protest before this one that I spoke at was No Kings 2, and it was shortly after Charlie Kirk had been murdered. So, like RIP, but HPD, HPD, I don't know, it depends which way you land, right? HPD had just contacted us that they wanted us to wear vests for public speaking, right?
Damn.
Not just that, but I also had friends who were telling me, we're going to invest in body armor. You should wear the, and I got in a bit of trouble because I straight up, you know, and this is also a signal chat of probably like 600 people, right? It's so 5051 has, or CAW, Community at Work, has these signal chats where they basically like to initiate you into their organization or, you know, their movement of community work. They kind of group you in this chat of like a whole bunch of fucking random people that you have no idea, literally like maybe 600 random people, right? So that's the main chat. And then from there, you are sent to specific chats depending on what they need you to do for them. So in the general chat, you know, we're discussing this, and then my reply is like, I knew my risks when I signed up for this job, you know? I was like, and I don't want to be morbid or anything, guys, but 80% of politicians or anybody who has been actively involved in any kind of situation like that, they don't choose for, like, they'll shoot your face. So I'm not going to wear body armor because if I'm very Mexican, right? Aunque te quites o aunque te pongas, cuando te toca, te toca. So I was like, if it's my time, it's my time. But when I tell you guys, I was nervous. As I'm delivering the speech, I'm scanning the crowd. And a lot of people did not know this. I see at the top of the building, there are quite literally National Guard officers at every single fucking corner surrounding City Hall and at the top of City Hall. And while we marched on the entire march.
Yeah.
So as I'm speaking and I'm, you know, scanning the risk, I see them and I am shaking so hard that the aux cable literally detaches from the microphone. And I use that as a moment to I cracked a joke where I was like, mic drop. But, and like, obviously nobody knew this. Inside, I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm about to get killed right now. Why is there so many people with like guns in the roof? I've never seen anything like that in my life during a protest, ever. They had it at the No Kings 3, same setup. I asked, you know, HPD what that was about. And unfortunately now we've become such a big movement where they have to have those people there to make sure that the community is safe. They're not there for us. Like, they're not there to like harm us. They're there to keep us safe from bad actors. But as somebody who is not like, if they don't tell you what's happening, dude, I was so fucking scared. I was like, why are there people up there? And like, does anybody else realize that there's people literally up? Literally, they could have taken a shot at me if they wanted to. And that's scary.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I'm like, I've never thought about looking up.
Neither
I've
did
never
I.
thought about looking up. either,
Neither
actually.
did I. But
Being
the
out with this
problem is
process.
there were so many people that when I did it, I went,
Yeah.
and the first little just body caught me at like that one building that's off to the left, and it's like a parking garage thing, and I like saw him kind of by Tranquility Park, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and then when I drop the mic and stuff, I look up and there's two on top of City Hall to my back, and in that moment, I went like. Almost wanted to like poop myself. I don't even know how to explain it. Like my escalofríos, así de que I went cold because I thought to myself, fuck the community. I'm not going to get killed by them. I'm going to get killed by
by the government.
them, by the government.
Yeah.
And then how is that going to be? How are you going to prove that? Right? Like that's the crazy part. And I honestly think that something like that happened to Charlie because that was insane. For me to experience that as a speaker, and then having been told like you need to wear an armor, it's not as safe as it is anymore to speak. So I didn't speak after that protest until we protested again for IYT, and I actually, because of that experience, I told my co-founder Gigi, I will not speak publicly like that if it's not involving an IYT protest, because if I'm going to get killed or I'm going to die, it's going to be for IYT. I am not going to die for a different cause or a different org. Like, hell no. And I know that sounds crazy, but
No,
there's
not at
just no way I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, not at all.
The risk is so high. And that's another thing a lot of people don't realize, the risk that we carry every day. People wake up every day hating me just because of what I do for work.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep a big layer of my life super private, like my kids. I don't post them. I go by my maiden last name. I try to shelter the kids as much as possible because it's not their fault that I'm involved in this. So I want to make sure, and that honestly goes for anybody involved in the movement. We carry a layer of uncertainty all the time just because of what we do.
Yeah.
What we're involved with, who we involve ourselves with. People are just. I put this the other day on social media, but literally humans are so weird. They're amazing, but they're so weird. Yeah, we're just layered, complex beings, I guess.
It's actually so scary.
It
So
is.
scary, and I can't even imagine. And you got so much more planned too. You're not. It's not like you're like getting out of the pool. No, it's like you're swimming deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, you go deeper into it, and that involves a lot more of a risk the deeper you go too.
No, yeah. I think about that aspect all the time because I'm sure we all have someone who is undocumented.
Mhm.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
My sister was when we moved from Mexico here. My older sister's undocumented.
So it's like,
She's a citizen now, but
Yeah.
she was at the time.
yeah, we're not just risking our bodies and ourselves. We're potentially also risking other people.
Yeah.
And it's very, like, I wish people weren't fucking crazy. But, there's
People are
certainly
crazy.
people out
Yeah,
there.
there's certainly people out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And since I guess I don't know what I would call the kind of level we're at, where it's kind of very, I don't know, it's not like Hassan Piker levels where he's getting it all the time,
Yeah.
and he's managed to like brush it off or have some like kind of security and plans in advance. We're still like low level, very on the ground, very like something could happen, and
No one would care.
yeah,
No one would care except our general community.
yeah,
I was just
But
gonna
it
say
would-
that's what y'all think, but you never know. Nobody cared who Renee Good and Alex Party was,
Oh,
but
yeah.
look what they turned into, right? You just never know.
Yeah.
I don't want to become a statistic. I have so much work to do that I definitely I'm not ready to die yet. But that's not my choice. I think that as long as you live a life where at least once a day you do something for you, that's a rich life, right? Life is so precious, especially in our communities. We see it a lot more in the brown and black community where life is taken fast, so like often so quickly that it does make you value things like this, conversations, connections, community. I wasn't always like this. Advocacy changed me a lot. For a period of time, I will be so honest with you guys. I was in a very materialistic world. Financially, when I was married, we were very well off. So not that I didn't care, but I wouldn't involve myself with things as I am now. And I think a lot of it is because of comfort. I think that we get so stuck in this pattern of like, if it doesn't affect me, because like that's my reality. It didn't bother me until it affected me, and that's the wrong way to go about it. So now I try to teach everybody to not be like me, like learn from my mistakes, because how fucking ignorant was I was to not realize the magnitude and the severity of what is really, really happening. To the point that now I've devoted my life to it because education is, knowledge is power. I think the most important thing ever is to like educate as much as you can, so that you aren't stuck in this cycle of comfortability, right? You have to be uncomfortable to be able to grow. So I think that's really important to just in general. And like our human experience is to, it's hard to get out of that comfort. That's why I was telling you, give people grace, because it's so hard to get out of that comfort period. And that on its own is like an ego death to be able to get to where you are of service, because there's really nothing else that you can say. What we are doing by spreading awareness is being of service. And that has so many lanes on its own. You can do protesting, you can speak somewhere, you can literally feed people with $30. That's a form of service. There's so many things you can do. You can go to a panel and speak or hear speaking. There's so many community events that prepare you to do stuff. Every Tuesday you can go to City Hall and speak. There's a lot that you can do. It just takes that like level of caring.
Yeah, doesn't need to be a grand, big gesture of like, rah, rah, the revolution. It can be something as simple as taking care of your neighbor.
Simple. Such a small, you're one decision away from living a different life and creating the ripples you thought you couldn't create. So a lot of people think that you have to do these monumental things, and it's not true. So thank you for saying that, because you literally just have to show up. That on its own is going to create a ripple. And then anything that you create after that will ripple into bigger things for not just the community, for your friends. And then your friends are going to see you doing this stuff and be like, oh my God, I want to do that too. Or how can I get involved? Or what can I do to do something, similar to that or different,
That's what I love so much about you, Eddie, and just being in the punk scene. It feels like you're really kind of leading the charge and kind of putting this stuff together, being a figure and a voice, and using all of these aspects to try to, energize people to make action. And I really admire that.
Or at least be aware.
Yeah.
And not just that, diversity, right? He's been able to create a show that is going to bring quite literally very different communities together to blend, to mesh for one cause. And I think that on its own is hard and powerful, because you don't see I guess you do, but I guess our crowd I did not think they were going to react the way they did to the punk scene. Holy crap, that was insane. In the best way. That was the best experience. It was so funny because when you guys started mosh pitting, everybody was like, Stephanie, there's kids there. And I'm like running, trying to get in it.
You were right there on the side.
I was right there on the side, yeah. And then I was like so mad because the aux kept coming in and out, and I'm just like, where's the mic? But that was such a good, like, thank you for reaching out to IYT. That was such a crazy experience for sure. And that opened a door that I definitely I was not educated on, that you guys have helped me a lot in, how intertwined punk and the movement this as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that we have left that scene out. So I'm happy that we're able to bring that into our like network of community to continue intertwining more communities together. Because in theory, that's what it is. We need everybody kind of like kumbayaing to um, like reach the masses, you know? And what better way than music? I love music. Yeah.
I love music too.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, maybe we should talk about the show.
I'm excited.
We should talk about the show.
I'm excited.
For those of you that don't know, me and Stephanie, along with Moshtown and Ben Steve, are collaborating to throw a huge charity benefit show for the kids stuck in the Dilley ICE Detention Center at Axelrad May 2nd. All right.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We have a bunch of different local organizations that are going to do kind of like a meet and greet from 2 to 4. They're going to, they're just there as a resource, an additional layer for you guys. I'm really big about, if you don't align with IYT, I want to find someone that aligns with you. So I bring a lot of great organizations to a lot of our events to just table and provide information, provide ways to get involved into their movements, and just how we are able, because here's the beauty. One person can belong to 10 different organizations and help 10 different times in 1 month, and they're doing so much already in that department, right? And then we're going to have a bunch of different other local orgs who are going to do, kids activity tables, and Moshtown, Nico is doing some great stuff with raffles. And then I'm going to have Sergio's film during community hour that I'm, going to be showing. I don't want to tell you guys what it's about because it literally made me cry, but it's a great film. And I think it's a good perspective that we don't see often. I think we always hear the immigrant story. And I think that the perspective that this film is going to have, the narration, like just everything about it is just so perfect. I don't even know how to hold on. I need to think about this because this is important. The film, I think, gives you a perspective that we don't acknowledge often.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave it there because it's a cliffhanger so that you can come from 2 to 4 to look at it. But yeah, no, Eddie has gotten so many great bands together. And then we partnered up with Axelrad. And the event's gonna be so crazy and fun and diverse and a blend of community, and it's gonna be a super fun time.
Yeah, I might have mentioned completely free, by the way.
Completely free, and it's all ages. So your kiddos can come, not only get a taste of, the punk scene, but they can come, make their own sign. We're going to have different activities, different orgs that also cater to kids' activities. So yeah, and then we're going to have a bunch of the bands selling merch. It's a release party for Los Calaveras, so that's also super important. So and then this is one of 3, so this kind of became a baby that grew into a toddler, and now I don't even know how or where, but I'm super excited about it. We have 2 other ones that we're going to have to plan coming up after that, because we want to bring awareness to not just Dilley, but also Brownsville, El Paso, because it's, Dilley has a lot of attention to it, but I think we often forget that we are still funneling kids and families through the other 2 centers. And we may not have the highest arrest percentages, but we definitely have the highest processing percentages. And that's really important for people to understand, that it does not matter where you get detained, you get transferred to Texas because of how relaxed the laws here are for detainment. And that doesn't include another big part of things that are now being called the Hotel Chronicles, where children are being housed in hotels because there's not enough capacity at centers for the children to be at. So now we have all of these kids without any kind of documentation quite literally being housed at a hotel. And when we have things like obscene files, it kind of leaves the mind to wonder to the worst fucking places imaginable of what could be happening in a hotel room, right? So as long as we can bring awareness and, get people into action and stuff, I think that's what we're aiming for, right? Yeah. Community action and awareness through music and movement.
Through music.
Yeah.
And connecting the community. We really want to bring everyone together and know that, hey, we can all exist under the same umbrella, tarp, whatever you want to do, tent. We can all work together.
We can.
That's the biggest goal.
And I'm going to give him some kudos because he doesn't give him himself. Since he created this, the last March, I have seen so many people copy his concept. So he is a trendsetter. So you're welcome, Houston. You're welcome. Literally, since this concept came to life, I have now seen. I mean, today I'm going to go speak at a show that is similar. We were just asked by
Bonsai.
Yeah, bonsai. But there is another event that is literally copy paste what we're doing at Astor. I think it's by Discovery Music or something. I'm not really sure. They reached out to us, but I literally was like, guys, this is a conflict of interest. This is quite copy paste our event. I cannot do any of this. I wish you guys luck, but no. But I'm seeing now more and more people doing this. So yeah, you're a trendsetter, dude.
I appreciate that, man.
Look at that.
As long as we help people out, I guess that's all that really matters.
And that's the best kind of
the ripples.
Yeah,
yes.
Ripple effect. Yeah,
Mhm.
You know? Next up.
Yeah,
someone's
because
gonna make
we want to send we want to set
Yes.
clear.
Yes. Say it.
What'd you say?
Next
don't know.
up.
Next up.
Next up, someone's going to copy his film or
Oh.
something similar because he's going to become the next trendsetter. I'm telling you guys, when you see his film, it's insane.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
We want to create a clear line in the sand between, in the scene at least, between you're either here or you're not with us. I know you just say love, but in the punk scene, we are a little bit more edgier in the fact where it's like, yeah, if you are a fucking fascist, pedophile, rapist, whatever, we fucking hate you.
Yeah,
And
we
get
fucking
the
hate you
fuck
too.
away from us, Unfortunately, there is no grace for Trump supporters in the punk rock scene. If you have been found out to be that kind of person, you will get outed immediately. You will not be allowed or safe at shows, and I promise you that you won't be safe. So just keep it low key if you go to shows, But you're still welcome to come. Just don't be an asshole, and don't talk to people.
No, if
Yeah.
you support Trump or the Red Party, please don't come to our show.
Yeah.
You are uninvited to the pizza party.
Yeah.
I mean,
If you're willing to change, that's okay. But if you're set in
make
your
sure
ways,
you change May 1st at 12 o'clock. Actually,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
May 2nd at 1 p.m.
1
If it's
p.m.
anytime after that, you're not welcomed.
Yeah. So keep in mind that is the reality that the punk scene is in.
Yeah.
So there's a clear line.
Yeah.
You're either with us or you're against us. It's either fuck us or I'm a
And I think
licking cuck.
But
So-
it is important to have those boundaries and those lines drawn in the sand, right? Because that goes back to morals and values. Like, you have to have a good head on your shoulders. Although follow those values, have to see the bigger picture of things. So I'm not going to tell you I'm centered because I fuck them
highly doubt
for
you're
real. Yeah. But part of my job, and this goes with everything I do, logistics, protests, talking to HPD and stuff, I have to carry a layer of a mask where sometimes it may seem like I'm one way, and then I will completely surprise you. I'll tell you, last year during our Labor Day march, when I had an altercation with HPD, I surprised everybody. Everybody thought I was an HPD girl, that I, just loved and trusted them blindly. Fuck no. I am well aware of the HPD game. I literally sat in a room full of sergeants and captains who told us all of these things just for me to turn around and say, okay, sounds good. That's not going to happen. Anyways, you wasted my time. I'm going to leave now. Goodbye. I think assumptions are our worst enemies, and maybe it's my job to teach the punk scene a little bit of love. I'll sprinkle a little love in there. A little love.
You know who
in
we
the
do have
chaos.
love for? We have love for our trans people.
Yes,
our
you have to.
LGBTQ
Yes,
plus people, our
yes.
immigrants.
Yes.
But we still really hate fucking cops.
No,
dude.
yeah.
But we'll try, but it is
Yeah.
good because we should exist in love and we should have some grace.
Yeah, we all have
So-
our own space.
Exactly.
Yeah, we
so
all have our own
so
space. Don't get me
coming
wrong.
May 2nd.
I'm not. Yeah.
Stephanie will give you guys a course on how to not be assholes all the time. Okay?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
Some
How to sprinkle a
love
little bit of
into
love
your
out there.
day with love and unity, guys.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
And I brought that energy to the protest too. I felt so bad because like everyone was so
No.
nice and everything, and I was up there like they're fucking viruses.
No, you should have seen us at the
Yeah.
at the detainment center that we did the protest. I spoke really harshly about HPD, and I had literally just high-fived the captain, and he's literally standing 20 feet away from me, watching me deliver this message, where I'm literally saying, "Fuck HPD for collaborating with ICE." When this
Yeah.
big fight happened with HPD, I embarrassed the shit out of the department. I mean, how dare a 5'3" girl buck up to a sergeant?
I
right?
saw that video too.
You can't do that. But how dare he use his power against our community who is tripping and falling when your boss just gave us the street? You're gonna arrest me for that? Take
Yeah.
me then.
Yeah.
Take me.
Who has a gun and who has a megaphone?
And not just that, but that guy has always caused altercations. You know, Officer Thomas just has a long rep with the community where he overuses his power. So, you know, I don't break bread with HPD, but do I have to speak to them because of logistics and routes and things? Yes. There was a time before all of this was implemented where I believed for a possible collaboration because of how lenient they truly have been for the movement. We can say whatever we want, but they treat the Palestinian community really shitty. They treat anybody protesting really shitty. And for the first time at BLM, I mean, we saw such violence between law enforcement and community, right? So this is the first time that HPD has truly been docile. And I believe, you know, what they conveyed to me was that their trust was so fractured after BLM. And I'm just like, well, yeah, what did y'all expect? Y'all were assholes. Y'all literally, like, this was half of the violence came from your reaction to what was happening.
Yep.
You know, it's reactive behavior. How do you expect human endurance, right? Like, how do you expect somebody not to react when you're like poking the bear, right? So, you know, I thought at one point this was also before I got deep into politics and I knew who Whitmire was, right? So this is before education, right? So this is why it's important to not be ignorant, like I was once. And I'm very honest in how I speak because I think it's really important to understand people make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's what you make of those mistakes, right? Yes, I at one point thought we could collaborate with HPD in the sense of keeping our community safe. Do I believe that now? Absolutely not. Do I believe that there's officers out there that care about us? Yes. Do I believe that they care about us enough to where they would go against the system to aid us? No, absolutely not. Do I think we have a mayor that cares? No, absolutely not. So my perspective has changed a lot, and that also has a lot to do with the way I also interact with HPD now. We barely talk now. You know, we've had the relationship is so tense because we're just very like what we need to talk about, and we don't need to be friends. You guys are collaborating with guys. Fuck you guys. You know. And that's just the reality. Regardless of what happens with this ordinance, you know, knowing that, you know, Chief said that he was going to continue the ordinance, regardless of what Whitmire said. So, you know, we're at a very pivotal time for Houston. And if I'm being really honest with you, I'm very hopeful until I hear that verdict. We have a really divided council who does not believe in this ordinance to where, I mean, 12.5 is a strong number for the first pass. So I'm really, really hoping that with this extension to Wednesday, it means that we are actually pushing back. Wishful thinking, you know, I am somebody that is always very, I'm not an optimist. I'm not a realist. I feel like you have to live in hope to be able to not be so like disillusioned in life. Or I would be so depressed, guys. I'll be so honest with you. If I didn't live in like this delusion of hope, I would probably be very sad every day because of what I deal with. So I am in this big hopeful bubble that, Houston's going to do what's right for its people and this ordinance going to stick and ICE and HPD will end that collaboration. And I feel like that's going to be such a huge win, not just for Houston, but for us, for the community. And it'll add a layer of safety for the community. Calls to HPD have dropped by 26% in the last 60 days. Those are a lot of people in how big Houston is that are not calling for help, that are in life or death situations simply due to a status. If a mom is getting her butt whooped, she can't even call for help because she might be afraid to be deported, and then a child is experiencing this. So I really hope they do what's right. Not just because that's what they have to do, but I feel like the community quite literally has been begging for that to happen through this entire movement. Half of it has been ICE out of Houston. We just don't need us to be another Minnesota. We don't need things to intensify because we do have such a large population of immigrants here and undocumented folks. I think we need to focus a lot of this energy on facilitating paths to become legalized to avoid a lot of this violence. If we focused just as hard on that, we wouldn't be here. But that doesn't make us money. Holding people in detainment centers do, which the cost of a body in a detainment center is $120 a day.
Wow.
And that's taxpayer money.
Yeah.
That's taxpayers' money.
That is.
And $120, that doesn't even give them proper nutrition or food.
No.
Which, if you want to look at the numbers, a child in a Texas public school system gets paid $66 per day.
Wow.
They're being fed a proper lunch, at least. That we have to pay for. Yeah, we have to pay for it. But, if you really think about it, $120 is a lot of money on a monthly basis to not be able to provide bare minimum. Dude, look, if we can't supply beds, cool, but at least a blanket, like
toiletries,
toiletries, and I don't even want to say this, but we have like, I wouldn't want to say running like, literally criminals are living better than our community members. People who have killed, murdered, raped are living a much better life than a child whose only crime was to have a mom and a dad who wanted a better life
fucking
for them.
Lane Maxwell, fucking that.
And then that whole situation, and that's another monster on its own. The Epstein files are just, I always said this before they were released. Our society is just not ready to face the morbid truth of humans.
That and who is in power.
Yeah.
I think we are reaching time.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So we do gotta wrap this up in a little bit. No, it's just and she keep in mind she was nervous.
I was so nervous.
No, we asked her one question. She's like, "All right, man."
Longest episode yet.
Yeah, and I'm actually really happy about it. Actually,
it's good.
It's been great. It's been really, really
good. I love you guys so much.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing is so great. If you guys are not told often, I think that it is so powerful to use your privilege to selflessly help the community. Nobody's paying you to do this. Nobody's paying you to do a show. Nobody's paying you to produce films. You're doing it because you care, and that is the biggest gift and the biggest imprint you guys are going to leave the world. And we need more of you guys in the world. And literally, I say it for our community. We are grateful to have people like you who make this so much more meaningful than what it really is, So thank you guys for the podcast. Thank you for opening, the ability to do this event that's now turned into a ripple, your film, a ripple. Your second film, because this is the second film,
Yeah.
It's a ripple. So, community really needs people like this. And, my job, I I don't really have a lot, but what I can offer you is a platform with what we have. So I feel like my job as a community leader is to be able to offer that to anybody who we vet. That's good people. That's important. To just provide the space for. There's so many of us that don't get that spotlight that are really doing such great things for Houston. And that's what makes Houston Houston. We have people who just want to make us better because this is really such a great city. And the people here are great.
And we thank you so much for what you do.
Oh, thank you guys. Yeah.
You and Gigi and your whole
Thank you
everyone
guys. Yeah.
is involved at IYT. We
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah.
it. Thank you guys so much. And
Thank you guys.
Yes.
you guys as a community, please go show them some support. And whenever they have a protest or anything like that, go out. Find your crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since this is Conchas con Chicanos, I want to try ending it with like the question of like, what does Chicanismo mean to you?
So a lot of people don't know this, but I actually lived in LA for a period of my time from the age of 13 to 14. So I lived in Downey, California, which is a suburb of LA right next to Southgate. So for a year of my life, I lived in Chicanoville. I still wear my socks high. There's just some stuff that roots in you. And I fell in love with the culture. The Chicano culture is similar but different to the Mexican culture. And it's very rooted. So Mexicans do have community. Chicanos have that times 100. And that was probably the number one thing I took out of that. Chicano to me means community. And even though you can have a tough exterior, you can be so fueled with love. I would say that it taught me not to judge a book by its cover. It taught me how to fight. It taught me how to get into a little bit of good trouble. But it also taught me to stand for what I believe is right. A lot of the people that I met in my life in LA, the common theme was they always did what was right, no matter what, they were involved in. And I'm talking about, I was with, and I was a little hoodlum when I was 13, I look all prim and proper, but I wasn't always such a good girl, My parents gifted me a bike and I was all over Downey and Southgate looking for trouble with people I shouldn't have been with. I got involved with people who were in, the Crips. I got involved with people who were in the Bloods. I got involved with people who were in the LA Kings. And I feel like because I was always such an adaptable person, I always say this, I can sit in a table with a CEO and a gangster and have a good, I don't know why, I'm just very adaptable. And I've never really belonged to something. Right? I've always been able to keep myself at a layer of detachment to things. I was exposed to a lot of harsh things. But through those harsh things, it's really important how rooted, like I said, in community, but family. And a lot of people don't relate this. But there is a lot of love, hard love. I'm not telling you oh, I love you. No, you are my brother, you are my blood, you are my life, you are my duty. And I've never till this day have found a community that holds that than the Chicano community. Literally. And they're so welcoming and they're so loving. There isn't much gray there either. They're very much either you're this or that. But I don't know, guys. Unbeknownst to me, when I was 13, I never knew that it would come back in a full circle here. I've been very lucky to also been involved with some of the, Chicano community here, and I just love them. They're good people. They're loving people. They're so inviting, and they're so loving. Yeah, I don't know. I have a very different experience with Chicano life because I was a wannabe Chicana. I had guys. I swear I had the black eyeliner, the big hoops, the jorts. I thought I was a little
Cholita.
like cholita. I acted like one for sure. The amount of earrings I had was insane. I had my nose pierced in an apartment in quite literally like the projects of Southgate with a fucking needle. I should have never done. Where were my parents? That's the question. But it was such a. I'm a big believer that everything that you go in through life always somehow circles back for one reason or another. And had I not lived through that, I would have never known that layer of it. I think we're very, as a society, we're so stuck to like judge people by their cover and I'll be honest with you, some Chicanos are very rough looking in the exterior, but those are the biggest fucking teddy bears out there, you know? And that's why I say love, because even though you may look like you could kill me, that person is actually going to show you how wrong you are, because that person is going to be so loving and empathetic and understanding and intelligent and smart and driven that is I would say that's the only thing I do hate about society, how it puts people in boxes and forces people to have this idea of this like the way people are. And that's the complete opposite of the Chicano movement. You know, they're so rooted in love and unity. And a lot of people don't realize that. But yeah, I was very lucky to live through that. Even though it was like some crazy memories, those were some of the best memories, I would say. And a lot of my core values, I would say, kind of came from that, because you don't really, like I said, you don't get a gray area. When you want to ride with certain crews, sometimes you do shit you're not supposed to be doing, and you do it because you do it for your community, you know? So, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I love them. Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for watching Immigrated Youth Texas. You can check out the event May 2nd at Axel Rad. Come fly in if you're not a local, or if you are a local, just pull up. It's free. Everything
Totally
will
free.
be in the link in the
Y
description.
más que todo, La Imperial Bakery, thank you so much
Yeah.
for having us over here. Amazing
tacos,
food. The
I was going
taco.
to say the tacos are amazing. I haven't had their concha, but I'm about to take a bite. And the coffee is great. Come check them out and give them some love and support your small businesses for sure.
That's it. Thank you guys. Cool.
Okay, that's not bad. All right, guys, that wasn't too bad.
An hour and 30.